Hello, Lightworkers 5.0. It's Leti and Irene once again. We are here to talk. This is a little fireside chat, right, Irene?
Yes.
We're just going to chat it up, guys. So I'm sure you guys have seen the most recent channelings that Miss Irene did that were sister. Wowza. Wowza,
Yeah.
wowza, wowza. Just
Yeah.
amazing information. Amazing information. Um, but I have a question for you. So,
Okay.
how does it feel when you're channeling? What do you feel like in your body or in your mind? What do you feel? I'm sure our
Well,
audience would like to know.
yeah. Well, my body is like they're like just leading up to the time that I'm gonna channel. It's like there's the buzz of energy. I can't explain it, but like I feel cold or I feel like shaky. Um, this tightens up. It's like, here we come, lift off kind of thing. And I know what they're saying. Most of it I remember, but not all, unless we start talking and then I remember, oh, I know they said this. But it feels good and the energy is so high afterwards. And it's like it's all lit up, like the feeling of it's all lit up here, but you're like in the background too, like blah blah, going like that. But I am involved in it still. It's hard to explain. But
Yeah.
then it's just these thoughts and words coming out. But yeah, I do encourage people to actually, if you're being called, if you feel like you want to try it, please do, because I was in the same boat. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of believing.
it is. And I have to say, I've channeled, you know that.
Yes.
We practice together. For those of you that don't know that, dun dun. Oh my gosh, Letty's channeling. Um, and but I also know that my I'm not I feel it here, like I can feel like there's a little constriction still. Not because there's fear, but I just need to remove whatever hesitation I might have, right? Whatever that is.
Mm.
And it is something that I do with Jesus and, of course, Archangel Michael by my side all the time. They're with me all the time. And I just want to say that to you guys. I've said this on my channel before, and I think we might have touched on this. You know, we channel when we're in a good place. That's also really important to know. If we're feeling down or tired or just not in a good place, we're not going to channel. Number one, it takes a lot of energy to do this work anyway. And you do feel tired at the end. Um, you feel really high, but you do feel a little tired. Um, and especially the work that Irene is doing by me asking questions and stuff, right? A lot and pauses and things. And I know that when I've channeled, I've had, Mary Magdalene come through, I've had Jesus come through. For me, it it's always just a real, I think they know that I'm new, right? So they're being gentle with me. Just kind of, yeah, they just kind of flow in, and then it's a slow movement into my being, so that I could be the voice box, right? The little microphone. Um, and it's true, Irene, you're right. You can't remember every single thing you said, but you could talk about the feeling you had, like it felt
Hmm.
warm, it felt pleasant, it felt loving, it felt kind, whatever that is.
Hmm.
One of the things that our guardians, and they said that, they said they're not just your guardians, they're everybody's guardians.
Hmm.
Thought that was
Of
so cool. I was
course.
like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm borrowing you. One of the things that they said was, I asked a question about children who were diagnosed on the spectrum, autistic or with ADHD or ADHD, and just the label that they've been given, as people, as humans, right, on this planet. At such a young age, they've been given this label, and I know we'll put the link on for that video specifically here. Um, but and the guardians answered beautifully when they said that, the ones that weird, they're not weird. We're the ones that are weird because we have it all backwards. Right? I love that when they said that, and I thought, okay, um, but
Oh.
right, yeah, it is, but it's true. I think sometimes, and I didn't realize this until I watched, I learned more through the Course in Miracles and also Conversations with God with Neil Donald Walsh. When we see someone without legs, or we see someone, who's challenged in any way, we're like, oh, poor guy, poor girl, whatever. Well, that's judgment. Why are we judging someone's experience? If they were born without legs, they don't know anything else, right? It's just their experience. But we feel sorry, and we put
Mhm.
pity on that person, and we just look at them with, you feel sorry for these people, and that's not right. That's not okay. One thing that I can say with children is, and they talked about the channel being really, really passionate about talking about the children. And I know you and I've talked about this many times, is, supporting the children and young adults too, teenagers throughout this
Mhm.
ascension. And, we've talked about how, you know, as parents, we were controlled. They did mention this. The guardians did talk about, don't control them, don't be mean, let them be who they are. Um, and our generation, we didn't have that. We were kind of,
Oh.
right? We didn't. And now we're being told by spirit, and I think a lot of people are starting to kind of figure this out, is allow them to express their creativity. But they came here, they're being born right now, and they have been born, if they're under 20, to change this world. They're going to be the one, we're leaving this planet to these guys, to these kids, right? And they're here to change the world. And I think it's great if a child has confidence and expresses their thoughts. And I wouldn't want to quiet them down or dumb them down or tell them to be quiet and shut up and go to the corner, whatever. That just feels wrong to me. But what do you think? What are your thoughts, Irene?
Oh, right. Yeah. So, you know that my career, I'm a medical doctor, and
Mm-hmm.
before I woke up, um, I see all these reports about, oh, there's a lot more diagnosis of ADHD or autism and those things. And then I see a lot more of these kids as well in my practice when I was still practicing. And, I understood them as how a medical doctor would understand them, that there's something wrong with them and that they need to be medicated. But once they are medicated, it's not the end of the issue. The issue there is going to be another thing and another thing, and then more medications or increased medications, and then when they become adults, because I see those who have been diagnosed and then they become adult, I see them in practice too, and then they go on antidepressants, and then they keep coming back with the same issue, and I was thinking to myself, how can this be? How come science and medicine has not treated these kids, these people? But now I realize that they're hyperactive. They're acting up because they are being forced to veer off the course or the path of their life that they came to live, and they
Right,
came
right.
to put new energies, new things
Yeah.
into this world, and we just all misunderstood. So, like I have a friend who in another country, and the child was born, and the child could talk and could read very, very early on. So, like, oh, very, very smart child, intelligent. And then it turned out a few years later that the child was on medication for ADHD. So apparently the child was very hyperactive. And then, so they went from psychiatrist to psychiatrist, trying to get a treatment. And then they asked me one time, and I was just waking up that time, and I said, well, there's this healer, spiritual healer,
Dun,
right?
dun,
Da da da, from a
dun,
doctor.
dun, dun.
Because
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
know
yeah.
I'm a doctor. They probably that's why they probably
Right,
approached me, although I'm not a specialist in that field. But I said, oh, this I know this healer there, and she does this amazing stuff. And look at her website, and just try that. And I even tried to send them a book about crystal and indigo children. And there's a lot of
right.
those around, and they're really
Yes,
good.
yes. And
And
that's what.
never heard from them. Never
Well,
heard from them. But I can't judge as to what happened. But I
yeah,
can just
yeah,
I can just guess. Without trying to judge that
well,
they must have found me weird that time.
and that's okay. But you know what I realized is, as with anything, it's a learning curve. I remember being a kid, and everybody that I knew, all my grown up people in my life, were smokers. They smoked. It wasn't illegal. It wasn't bad to be in the same room with a bunch of kids, and everybody's having a cigarette. This is the
Yeah.
early 70s, right? Um, but I know now, let's look at 50 years later, I have little nieces and nephews, and if they see somebody with a cigarette, they're like, ew, oh my God. They're just, ugh. It's such a bad thing, simply because the education around cigarettes now is very open, right? It's very, very public. Smoking is bad for you, it causes cancer, all this other stuff. So the society did a little shift. And I can see where in the next 20 years, talking about, like, let's just talk about yoga and meditation. 30 years ago, people thought that was woo-hoo, oh, that you're a woo-woo person. Oh my God, you do meditation? Like, what's
Kumbaya.
that? Yeah, kumbaya. Yeah, everybody, they were just, and they were hippies and they were weird and they were probably potheads, I mean, at least over here in California. And it was, it was a thing. But now, 30 years later, there's centers, there's yoga centers, there's
Mm-hmm.
meditation centers. Cannabis is legal. I mean, it's all about connecting to oneness. And so I think what's going to end up happening, and this is my prayer for the world, is and we've sent lots of energy out to the universe for children, um, is that there's going to be a resurgence of how to look at this. And the Guardians, in the video that we put here in the comments, they're going to be very much a part of that. This video, I know, is going to be seen by many, many people. And the children aren't the ones with the issue. They are crystalline. One thing that was mentioned is that they're coming in with crystalline DNA for their Akash, which in the spiritual realm, that they're not coming in with all kinds of shit, right? A lot of baggage kind of stuff, and they're coming in very clear. And I can tell you, just from looking at my nieces and nephews, they're very much in tune with nature. They're in tune with a lot of things that yeah, we rode bikes and played on the trees, but we didn't talk about the energy of the tree. We were like, yeah, it's just a tree. But they're
You
getting
climb it.
taught.
It's a
Yeah, we just
tree.
climbed it, we swung from there, yeah, we picked the leaves, we did whatever. But I think now there's just an innate knowing. They have this innate knowing, about how vibration and energy work. I talk to my nieces and nephew about a lot of stuff, and they just look at me, and I'm not the crazy Tia. I'm not, oh, here she goes again. They're like, really? Yeah. Wow. Well, that's so cool. And I'm like, okay, you're great. Okay, we're good. I mean, they really do. They understand it. Um, and like the guardians have said, the veil is getting thinner, right? So
Yeah.
we will have more access, um, as adults, to spirit, to the angelic realms and everything. But the kids, they've always had it. Remember how everybody used to say that up until 5 or 6 years old, children could talk to angels, or they could talk to people that had moved on. And a lot of parents were like, nah, they don't see anything. But they really do. They really,
Yeah.
really, truly
Because they're
do.
still
And I think
connected.
they're very connected. I think
They've
what's
mm,
also interesting is you and I talked about controlling children. You want to
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that and how to let them be?
Yeah, I mean, I have experienced controlling my children in my life very recently, in the last few years. I was like,
Yeah.
I want them to succeed, but success, we all got to define success. What is success? Success is having a degree. Success is being number one in academics or having A's or being the captain of a sports team. Is that success?
Mhm.
That's how I used to define it. So I was part of that group. And I sent my children to private schools because I believe, oh no, they can't go to a public school because it's not, it's a different learning. But I was like so dumb that I didn't realize it, but now I know. So my daughter is homeschooled now for 3 years now. So just before the pandemic, and it's controlling our children. It's not only through talking verbally to them, but it's through our energies. Even if you stay quiet and silent at home, everyone could feel that energy, like I want my child to be a doctor, an engineer, or whatever. I want her to be like, or him to be this, whatever. They could feel that, the same as we could
Pressure.
feel another person's energy. But then again, also let us remember that we don't know the path of that other person, our kid's path. They were just, you know they're actually not given to us. We were like, it's just, we're just in passing. That's my mom in passing, or, we're just used as a means for the soul to incarnate here. So control, in a sense where you push them to finish school, for example. I'm not saying it's bad to finish school, right? But most of the times, some of us actually push our children, just finish this and then you'll be all right. And just go to university or college and you'll be all right. It's good for you so you can find a good job, which means that's teaching them that, you have to go find a good job so you can be successful.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
actually saying that, oh, hey, you can be this creative and then you can um, live off that, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
so there's a lot of
here,
things we have to learn. We're like the babies.
yes.
The
Yes.
world is upside down, right? So
Yeah.
those children are teaching us, and we're like
Mhm.
the babies, but we have to accept and acknowledge that we are that we've learned the wrong beliefs.
Right. And it
Mm,
goes back thousands of years. I mean, we're
of
ancestors
course.
to, we have ancestors that they learned the way they learned, and then it gets taught down generation to generation to generation for hundreds of years, right? Hundreds of generations. So there's no blame. I think one thing I want to say to the audience is, love yourself, be forgiving of yourself. I've asked my daughter for forgiveness, like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was so hard on you. Sorry. Now I'm learning. And I think that therein lies the opportunity to break the chain and to
Yeah,
stop for it not to continue anymore, right? You break the chain. Um, and I think by generations, I can honestly speak with my family, we have broken the chain just of certain things. Um, but as far as the conditioning we all had about, yes, you need a college degree, yes, you need to have this high education and go into debt, I don't care how much, because you're going to have a better job. That really makes no sense, especially here in the US. You know, here in the US, college is expensive. It's
yeah.
expensive. And I was so conditioned when my daughter said she wanted to go to college. She was already, she planned her entire high school experience so that she could get into a good college. Study this, do that. You got to take this test. You got to study that. And so she got into a good school. She got her master's. And at the end of the day, I want her to be happy. She's a musician. She's a vocalist. She's walking in her purpose in the sense that she's doing a lot of really good work for the community and for women. Um, but is it down to the nitty gritty of what her master's degree was? No, but she's walking in her purpose. But there's this mountain of debt, just to get that education. And so
Mm,
it's kind of like, we force our children into these molds And then later we realized, wow, it didn't serve them to be, they didn't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
They
So
never really had,
we're wanting them to follow our footsteps and look at us.
yeah,
We're trying to
exactly.
learn again. We're
Yeah. Now
trying
we're
to learn.
channeling.
Now I am um with the education that I had, the many years of studying and continue to study because I got to keep up with the information, right? So from all of that,
Right.
all those training, all those years, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to unravel everything I learned. And it was like,
Yeah,
what? but
right.
there's no point looking back. It's like, what the heck? I've learned all of that for nothing. No, it was for a great learning for myself. But
Right.
just the conditioning, the long hours of work and long hours of being on call in the hospital, and that was like taxing to the body and to the spirit, to the
Yeah.
soul. So there's no logic in that. And I think this world has given us everything that's illogical. You really think about it. A story that I just remembered years ago reading in a doctor magazine about this doctor who has an autistic child. The child is probably about just under 20, 20 years old, just under that. And like as they say, severely autistic. And so he tried different treatments. He tried different ways, music therapy, that kind of thing. And one day he decided he's gonna stop work temporarily for 6 months. And they went into the mountains and did hiking and camping and all those things. And he said while we were there, it was the first time that he heard the child talk like talk like proper something. So you see how that is healing, because obviously now we know that obviously he tapped into something there where the child tapped and became balanced in their center, and therefore became that spirit that they really are and express themselves verbally. But again, it doesn't mean whether we express ourselves verbally or through actions. Only humans, I think, need verbal communication. Everything from spirit is like telepathic through the third eye and
Right.
through, yeah.
Right. Well,
So
I
that
think
was
it's
very
interesting.
inspiring.
That is inspiring. And that just proves, I think, for those of us that have awoken and are on the spiritual path,
Mhm.
w- nature nature is the medicine. Sunlight
Yeah.
is the medicine. Quiet is the
Water.
medicine. Water, just not feeling pressure to be, to do, to feel certain ways. We've been, I think society, and depending on where you live, I think it's pretty much the same. There's these criterias and these standards, and everyone has to do this, live by a standard, or have the
Mm.
criteria, hit these marks. And I didn't go to college. I graduated from high school. I met my daughter's dad, and that was it. And then I was a single parent for many years. And I felt horrible about myself because I didn't have the degree, and I didn't have that diploma. I disappointed my mom and my dad, and I wasn't a good example for my sisters, and I was just the worst person on the planet. And I just felt like I wasn't smart enough. And now I look back on things and I think, wait a minute, okay, that wasn't part of my soul planning. When I did my plan for my life, I was going to learn how to be in the world first. It didn't mean I wasn't intelligent. It just meant that I had other strengths and other abilities and other things I needed to work on, which was confidence and courage and being brave and being strong, because I probably, maybe I wasn't that in another life, right? But so we do choose our path, and we do have lots of opportunities to walk it. and we just have to choose again. Like you're choosing again. You're an amazing channeler now. I mean, who would have, would you have thought this 5 years ago? I mean, really?
Oh no, oh no. Like, you know what? I was thinking, I was reflecting about it the other day. Like when I was still working, like pretty much into the rat race of the whole medical field, I wouldn't use the words channeling. I wouldn't, I don't know. You know, channel would be a channel on TV. Like really, I was that dumb. I wouldn't use the word resonate. You know, spirit. Oh my gosh, if I use spirit, it's like, why are you using spirit? Why don't you use Jesus or God? You know, if I say great spirit, I was like, oh my gosh, that's no, 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 that's you shouldn't be using that. So these words resonate, channeling, spirit. What else are we using? What else are we using now? I've never used those words.
Right.
And I'm really amazed when I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, wow, wow. It's like, you know, even my vocabulary, I was limiting myself because you can't say that
Yeah.
in this 3D world. But I was like,
Right.
wow, you know,
Yeah.
so it's amazing what when you start opening up, what you learn about everything. And it is
Well,
not
and
also diminishing the experiences
no,
that I had and for anyone else experience.
right. And I think it's important for those of you that are watching that are if you're on this channel, you want something different for your life or you wouldn't be watching this, right? If you're still here, click on the bell. But it really does, it really, really, when you're aligning with something or someone's energy, like you and I, our energy, um, you're getting something from this that your soul wanted you to know. And that's how I view everything at this point. I let spirit guide everything. I just, if someone says, "Hey, you should read this book," and then another person says, "Oh, hey, you should read this book," and then another person says, "I got this book," and I'm going, "Okay, all right, I'll get the book." Right? But I think with if you're in a situation where your children and you're not aligning with them, we are going through a Mercury retrograde this month of September. Um, and regardless of whether there's a Mercury retrograde or not, the ascension is a powerful transformation of
Mhm.
everything. And so be gentle with yourself. No one's perfect. You're not the perfect. Nobody has to be perfect. But also just be mindful of your children. They are spiritual beings also having a human experience, and they we do not own them. They were given to us to guide in this experience. They chose us as their parents, so that's a good thing. That's a blessing. They stuck around, right? They were still here to help them. Um,
Yeah.
and I think love goes a lot further than the pointing fingers and judgment.
Yeah.
And we're all learning how to do this. We're all learning how to be better human beings and really just get comfortable in this new spirit life, to create the world we want to live in, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I think I just want to say to all the parents, if this is resonating with you, don't, just forgive yourself. Just know that you didn't know. We didn't know. Now we know. And with that comes a lot of compassion for yourself also, and love. Love yourself because you are the example to your children. When they see you loving yourself and you take the naps and you take a long bath and you take yourself out on a walk and you say no and have boundary, with certain things, lovingly, they're going to be given permission to also take naps, take long walks, be loving to themselves. And that's really, I
Mhm.
think, the best gift we could give our children is to teach them how to love themselves by us loving
Yeah.
ourselves.
Well, I think they love themselves more than we do because we've been so, you know, manipulated. I mean,
Yeah.
even the word manipulation, I haven't used that in a long time.
Yeah.
Now that I'm waking, I was like, yeah, it's true because it is happening, right? It is happening. We
Yeah.
truly have been manipulated, and you know, I think people just gotta accept that. Once you accept that we have been through a whole ringer of conditioning, then you start to change and you start to finally see, you know, the spirit, or why are we, like one of the questions that I asked myself was, so because I am Catholic, Christian, and I used to wonder, why is this life, if God is good, as we are taught, why are we, why is this life like this? It's like hell. Why I just never understood it. I
Yeah.
never understood. So why do we have, I mean, to those who are maybe not as awake as I am, I can ask them like, so why are you here? Why are you here? Right? It's just a question that I just couldn't answer before. It just
Hmm.
doesn't make sense. So I think my rule for a long time, but I've never realized it, is like if something doesn't make sense, something really is going on, something doesn't fit. And I was right. I just didn't
Yeah.
understand it. But everything
Yeah.
is in perfect timing as to
I
when we
mean,
understand it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think even that is planned, you know?
Yeah.
I think even that, because I often say, we have 3 girls, and I often say the youngest one is 14, and it's nothing for her to hear me talk about spirit and channeling and, oh, guess what happened today? Guess who came in? Da 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 da. And to her, it's normal. And I think, gosh, you're 14. If I knew what I know now at
Yeah.
14, oh my gosh, that would just, holy moly, wowza schmowza, that would have been amazing. But I wasn't meant to learn that at 14. It was meant to happen when it happened. And
Mhm.
so even then, like, everything is divine providence, it's divine timing. And for the children that are with parents who are waking up and who are allowed the opportunity and the freedom to, to explore that, and just and join in on a meditation with a family, or yeah, we're going to go on a spirit walk, we're going to, let's create some affirmations, you guys. What's your affirmation, and what's your affirmation? Gosh, can you imagine how balanced that little being is going to be in this whole new
Yeah.
world? And
So,
wonderful.
so if you imagine yourself teaching your child that,
Yeah.
and we always say that the children are the future of this world.
Yeah.
So yes, I can imagine
Yeah.
it's gonna be a wonderful world, right?
Wonderful world.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful world.
it is like, wow. I'm just thinking about it now, and wow. And also, I want to say about, say, we were talking about autism and ADHD, and kids who were diagnosed. I mean, as adults, we would have had some friends, or we know somebody who's been diagnosed as a child with hyperactivity, or even as an adult, because I know pretty much in practice that the diagnosis can go back, like a retrograde diagnosis. Oh, you were like this when you were a child, therefore maybe you have been ADHD then, and you were just not diagnosed. But labeling somebody like that, it can
Mm.
stick with them in their own mind. I'm like this, therefore I'm limited.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you plant that little seed,
Yeah,
it
and it's
stays
already
right
there, and
there. Ah,
it's probably going to be
yeah.
very challenging to get out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but they can. They just
Yeah.
have to realize that they can just do it. Just that decision in itself, like, I am not like that. That's a label being put to me, or has been put to me. I am not like that. That's it. Release of that belief, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I think some
Totally.
people are still like, even the diagnosis of cancer, right? You're a cancer survivor. You're a cancer this. I mean, I've had cancer, so I can say that. But after 2 years of going to the hospital and getting checked by the specialist, yeah. So even that the cancer survivor, so I myself have been going to the hospital every 3 months, 6 months to the specialist to get checked, just so the cancer doesn't go back. And every time
Wow.
I go there, I just feel so bad. You see all these people in wheelchairs. They're like they don't have hair, they look awful. And I thought after 2 years, I told my specialist, I'm not coming back here anymore, and I did refuse to go there. I said, no, I don't want this. It's like the energy is like pulling me down. But that was just the time that I was waking up. So you get sucked into that whole thing. You're trying to get rid of that cancer, of that label. But then here you go. You go every 3 months,
Right
6 months,
back in.
every year, back right into the energy. And I realized that. Then I thought, I'm going to take charge of my own healing. And I did.
There you go.
So
Thank you. The
yeah.
world needs you.
Yeah. And I think, again, this is not to diminish that, but we see like Breast Cancer Awareness Week, um, charity or marathon for breast cancer. I am not certainly diminishing that, but maybe it's time we give it a different name
Yeah.
and not focus on that
On the
disease.
cancer.
Let's just put a different name to it. Say a marathon, for example, that marathon for breast cancer awareness. How can you change that? You can change
Yeah.
that into something very, very positive.
Well, thrive to be alive, you
How,
know?
yeah, how about, I was going to say, how about life marathon? How about living
Yeah.
life marathon?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay. That's a hashtag. Hashtag living life marathon. I love that.
And
I think
certainly
it's
that
great.
that's what I'm teaching my kids too.
Yeah.
I'm making them more aware that, we, your parents, have labeled everything the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I'm doing that. I'm doing that. I'm doing that with the girls, and I'm calling my oldest all the time. I'm like going, okay, just so you know, I had another epiphany today. Um, and that's good. It's good to do that. It's good to be mindful. Um, I know the new world that we're creating is going to be so much more loving and so much more, just more balanced. It's going to be different. And I think what we can do as parents right now is just recognize that there's certain things we can shift. Doesn't have to be, guys, for those of you watching, you don't have to, go and do all this, work. It's not work. It's just a shift in how you see something. And hopefully this video gave you a little bit of an idea of how you can shift and change, to free yourself for number one from judgment of yourself and feeling guilty that you did this or guilty that you didn't do that or whatever. But also just having patience with the process, right, Irene? I think it's,
Mm,
this is a marathon. It's not a race. Find your pace, you know, just do what you can when you can, and trust.
yeah, yeah, and certainly we are going through the journey ourselves. So,
Yeah,
we try and correct anything and everything that we are seeing for the first time. So we are sharing. We're not certainly lecturing anyone on what to do, but we're just
yeah,
sharing really these experiences. And we definitely would benefit from people as well, for any feedback and all that. And we continue to do
mhm,
that with our friends and families as well, like talking to people that's help, and traveling does help. I'm keen to travel more. I've been saying that over the last few days. So,
yeah.
yeah,
We're
because
we're
you
go-
learn a lot. You learn a
yeah,
lot from traveling, even just traveling to the next town.
yeah,
You see how people live and you see their reactions and you converse with them. It's good. Very
yeah.
good. I love it. Cool.
Well, thank you, Miss Irene, sister
Thank
from another
you.
mister. Love you.
Yes. Love you too, Letty. Thank you very much.
Aw. And thank you, Lightworkers 5.0 community, for joining in for our little fireside chat with Miss Irene, Miss Letty. We are so excited to be in the position to do this. And this call from spirit is not only helping you, it's helping us. And with absolute gratitude and a loving, joyful service, God bless you.